vaccine. Well, Senator, I was working in the Wuhan lab one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. All my patented potion began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise, we got the vax. We got the COVID vax. We got the vax. It was a graveyard smash. We got the vax. It caught on in a flash. We got the vax. We made a bunch of cash from my laboratory in the Far East to the United Nations where the vampires feast. The sheep all came out with their humble infections. Get a jab from my injections. They got the vax. They got the COVID vax. They got the vax. It was a graveyard smash. They got the vax. It caught on in a flash. They got the vax. We made a bunch of cash. The zombies were having fun. The lockdown had just begun. The guests included Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, and his son. The scene was rocking forward, thinking to beat. Bill Gates was backed by his fleeting sheep. The Mockingbird media were about to arrive. Backed by the group, the Big Tech Five. They got the vax. They got the COVID vax. They got the vax. It was a graveyard smash. They got the vax. It caught on in a flash. They got the vax. We made a bunch of cash. Out from the WHO, Pedro's voice did ring. It seems he was troubled by just one thing. He opened the conference and said you've been told.
But whatever happened to the common cold?
It's now the vax. It's now the COVID vax. It's now the vax. And it's a graveyard smash. It's now the vax. It caught on in a flash. It's now the vax. We made a bunch of cash.
Okay, I think I've heard enough. Dr. Fauci, you are under arrest for crimes against humanity. Guards, take him away.
Oh, no, wait. Klaus Schwab made me do it. No, wait, wait, no. I'll be good. I promise. Oh, no, wait. Oh, yeah, no, wait. Oh, yeah.
You are listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, so sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show.
We're here.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's all right. So I guess we'll use my.
Hobbs is having a technical issue.
It sounds like you're both having technical issues. Well, welcome, everybody. Man, you guys are a bunch of amateurs. What's going on with this?
I don't know. I think it's you. I think it's you.
Think it's me?
Yeah.
Oh, we're off to a great start.
Anyways, thanks for joining the shit show.
Yep. So, yes, we're multiplying. Okay, so welcome once again to another episode of This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, and now with Token as well. Hello, welcome back.
What's up?
So there was a busy week in the news this week. So we have an article that dropped on The Intercept, which was lads. That was a big one, quite possibly the biggest story we've had possibly in our lifetimes, outside of like 9/11 or something. Then there was also the globalist mouthpiece, The Atlantic, urging us all to come on, guys, the pandemic. Let's just live and let live. You know, come on, can't we all just get along? You know,
there's no reason to keep track of who was right and who was wrong, because bygones be bygones, you jerks. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
Yep. And then Joe Biden gave a speech that has some very interesting undertones to it, and is sending some conflicting messages with what's going on in the media, as well as some movers and shakers within his own party. And believe it or not, I believe all of these things are somehow connected. So join us, won't you, while we weave an internecine web of intrigue and stupidity on tonight's episode of This Week in Cloud World.
Well, I mean, you haven't even mentioned the epic hammer fight that went down in San Francisco.
That one might be kind of off to the side of these other things that I'm talking about.
So you're telling me the underpants hammer fight isn't related to anything?
It's all related, Hobbs.
It is. I'll put it up there on the board and I'll put a piece of red string to it. But I was told that the first rule of Underpants Hammer Fight Club is that you don't talk about Underpants Hammer Fight Club.
That's what they told me when I joined. So,
but be that as it may. So I'm just going to jump right into this Intercept article because, like I said, it's quite probably the biggest story of our lifetimes. So the Intercept, which for those of you who are unaware of it, is a publication. I believe it was Glenn Greenwald who started it, and he left when the editorial board and the employees there took a hard left turn. Now, Glenn Greenwald he's kind of a left of center guy himself. So for him to leave his own publication because they went too far left says something.
Kind of like Jack Dorsey and Twitter there, or what?
Something like that, I imagine. But be that as it may, The Intercept actually dropped a bombshell report the other day called Truth Cops. That's the name of the article. You can look it up anytime that you want. And it is the definitive proof that what we say has been happening over the last few years is definitely happening. And that is that the government and big tech and the media are all colluding together in order to censor and shadow ban counter narratives. They are all going in one direction and they are all working together in order to push the narrative that they want to push, whether it's in regards to the Rona or the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the 2020 election, where all of the money that we're sending to Ukraine is going, whatever the current thing currently is. All of these institutions are all in lockstep together and they are colluding behind the scene, and the Intercept has the receipts, as the kids say these days.
yeah.
Well, and just for a second, I forget that there's a federal law against this too. The government cannot do propaganda on American soil, or what? You know what I'm talking about?
That was a law, and then Obama reversed it, or Obama didn't reverse it, but it was called the Smith-Mundt Act.
There you go.
Was the one where they couldn't have propaganda played on U.S. soil, and it was repealed under, like right at the end of the Obama administration. It was one of the very last things that he did. So the thing that's interesting is that we all know that we have the First Amendment, the constitutional right to free speech. And the constitutional right to free speech says the government is not allowed to censor us. And for the longest time, whenever Twitter, YouTube, Google, et cetera, have been throttling and shadow banning and flat out censoring people, the refrain from anyone who was sympathetic to what was going on to libertarians like us was always, well, these are private companies and they can do what they want. And that was always annoying because it was always the libertarians who were always at the forefront of that argument. Now,
there's always these autistic libertarians that you can count on to say something stupid like that.
Yes. So part of the government can't censor you, but private corporations can, comes with the stipulation that a private corporation cannot be deputized by the government in order to censor people on their behalf. And for the longest time, we could see it clear as day. It always ever went one direction ideologically, but we never had the absolute proof that we could be like, y'all are working together to censor X, Y, and Z. And this is the proof. Well, now we have it.
We may not have had the receipts this whole time, but any rational human being who just listened to what these people were saying. Because Jen Psaki said this in one of the in one of their briefings. She straight up said, "Yeah, we tell Twitter what we want taken down, and then they do it."
Right.
And then Zuckerberg gets on Joe Rogan's podcast, be like, "Yeah, the FBI contacted me, be like, be on the lookout. There's gonna be some disinformation coming." And then the Hunter Biden story drops. And all these FBI and CIA guys get on the news and be like, "That's it. That's the disinformation." Right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But those were always kind of dismissed as kind of being a wink and a nod type of thing, rather than just flat out government says, "Hey, Twitter, ban this," and Twitter bans it. It was always kind of like, "Hey, it'd be a shame if this Russian disinformation saw the light of day, don't you know, Twitter?" And they're like, "Oh, yes, I agree with you. That sure would be a damn shame. We better nip this in the bud." Well, now we have leaked text messages from a former DHS executive, or a former DHS agent who is working as an executive at Microsoft.
Surely he was very overly qualified for that job. There's nothing.
Leaked email chains between people that work at Twitter and at Facebook. They had like conference, like Zoom meetings, Twitter, Facebook, the DHS. These were all these group emails have seen light of day that state that these entities were all working together in order to censor and throttle various counter narratives. Now, with that being said, you're going to get two sides of an argument. People that are on they're a private company and they can do as they please, the libertarians, the corporate sympathetic right-wing people are going to say something like, "This just goes to prove that the government has too much power, too much regulation. Government needs to be reined in. The government is the bad guy here." The counter argument that would come from the left would be that corporations have too much power and influence over the government. And that's why the government needs more power and needs to be above the influence of corporations. My argument is I've come to kind of, you're both right and you're both wrong. It is implied, it is understood that the way that our system is supposed to work, a free market capitalistic society in a democratically elected representative republic, is you have the government with their ability to tax and the corporations with their profit motive driving them to make as much money as they can are supposed to be at odds with each other. And the way that the relationship is supposed to work is that these two entities are supposed to be antagonistic to one another. What we have now is we have a mutually cooperative agreement between the corporate sector and the public sector, where they are ideologically aligned, and rather than seeing the government's ability to tax as being a penalty that a business has to pay for the benefit of doing business in a certain country, businesses are seeing it merely as another piece of overhead. And rather than seeing the influence that a corporate entity has over the public at large as being something that they have to contend with, the government is seeing corporate interests and corporate influence as something that they can wield themselves behind the scene in order to push narratives. And it's a synergy that would make fascism blush.
Yeah, I was going to say, this sounds like a lot of extra steps for fascism.
No, it's straight fascism. This is what fascism is. This
is something completely new, because fascism has always been private ownership of the means of production with government control. And the operative clause in that statement is government control. Nobody's controlling the other entity in this situation. They are mutually and voluntarily cooperating with one another in order to exert power and push a certain narrative forward. Now, I've got theories about where that narrative goes and what the end goal is, and they all involve tinfoil hats and depopulation and all sorts of crazy shit. Nothing good, obviously, but that is where I think we're at right now. And this Intercept article, I think, has laid it all bare.
I just got to say this, because libertarians were warning Republicans and conservatives about this sort of thing for decades. Republicans are only now getting on the distrust of government institutions bandwagon that we've been on forever.
Mhm.
They've never been pro ending the FBI. They've never been pro ending, all these different institutions in the government. Like law enforcement and national security institutions have always been the sacred cows of government to the Republican Party. What we've seen over the last few years is that those sacred cows have been turned against them. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are being wielded by their political opposition as weapons against them. This is the Department of Homeland Security. That department was created in the aftermath of 9/11 in order to fight global terrorism. It was founded so that we didn't have more planes flying into buildings. It was created so that you didn't have any more hijacking, that you wouldn't have any more suicide bombers. It was created to protect us from terroristic threats. We were never told that it would be turned around and used as an apparatus of control over our speech. We were never told that these government agencies would be using this power given to them by the Republican Party and the Bush administration in order to silence you. But you know who knew this was going to happen the entire time? Libertarians. I am so goddamn sick of Republicans going, oh, well, man, I like your ideas, but you guys are just too out there. Conspiracy theories, wackos. No, what we really need to do is give the government all the power it needs to fight terrorists, or else the terrorists will win. And then this happens. 20 years later, we have these giant tech companies in bed with the government. The government tells them who to ban, who to silence, who they don't like, and then they're gone. What really stands out to me in the list of things that they were, censoring people for, the Afghanistan withdrawal. What is the misinformation about that? Like all these other things, I can see what they are saying is misinformation. Right? COVID. I know what they think the misinformation is. Vaccines. I know what they think the misinformation is. Social justice issues. Same thing. What the fuck was the disinformation about the Afghan withdrawal? That was just a shit show by our government that made them look bad. That's all that was. There was no disinformation about it. Unless they're trying to say that those kids that they murdered in the aftermath was disinformation. Because God knows nobody got punished for that. But that's just the thing. I wish this were surprising. I wish this was a shocker. I wish this news came out and I'm like, oh my God, didn't see that coming. But this is just proof of what we all knew all along. And You're right. A lot of libertarians have been using that excuse. It's a private company. They can do whatever they want. They don't really believe that, especially leftists. They don't actually believe that. They don't think a private company can do whatever they want. They just want companies that are doing what they like to be allowed to continue doing that.
Right.
Hey, when's the last time you heard a leftist say Twitter is a private company, they can do whatever they want? Not since Elon took over.
Yep, exactly. I was going to say, mostly it's a private company and they can do what they want argument was coming from left libertarians over the last 4 years, because the left libertarians' enemies,
enablers,
were the ones being censored, and now that the private company is truly a private company, I'm talking about Twitter, they're not saying that anymore.
Yeah, now they're ass mad. Now they're saying it's a threat to democracy because, a guy that might be a little more lenient on free speech is in charge.
Yep.
What we got over here, all I learned is the government labels you a terrorist, your odds of getting free military equipment increase.
It's been what, 3 or 4 years now since we got on a list, and I haven't seen one crate of ammunition.
Nope.
One shrink wrapped Black Hawk helicopter. Not one crate of AKs has been dropped off at my door. You're slacking.
You're not dark enough, is
Well,
what
but-
it is.
But the thing is, we all know this now, but is anything going to happen from it? I mean, it's not showing up on all the media, that Intercept article. I mean, leftist media is not even reporting on it.
Well,
Of course it's not.
this is the sort of thing that you would hope an opposition party is good for. Because I can't imagine.
We talked about this. The FBI has become an organization where whatever party comes into power just has to flush the toilet on them and clean house every time they come in now. They've got no other option.
Well, absolutely.
I'd
Especially
say
if you're
abolish the whole organization.
Especially if you're a
we'd like to.
Republican administration, they'll straight up lie to you. But no,
Yeah.
will anything happen? I have my doubts. Now, I would hope, since Republicans are going to absolutely sweep the House and probably take a majority in the Senate, that you'll see something happen. But I'm not holding my breath. This was their baby. They created this monster. And I'm supposed to trust that they'll rein it in. Yeah, I hope, but I doubt.
I think they're trying to figure out how they can use it now when they get in, because they're going to have the hammer at that point to hold over these companies' heads.
Yeah.
But that's just the thing, though. If Republicans tried to do the same thing, do you think they would get as receptive an audience at these big companies as Democrats do? Because Hobbs is right. They're working together. They're ideologically aligned. That wouldn't be the case if it was the other way around. If it was the other way around, we'd be hearing nothing but this story, right? This would be front page news everywhere.
Right. That's why the FBI, if the Republicans come to power, the FBI, the DHS, all of these organizations at the federal level, the Republicans' only choice is to dismantle them, to send them packing. Take any agents that may still have some shred of integrity, move them over to other organizations, put them in the Park Service for all I care. But the FBI, the DHS, the CIA needs a good flushing. All of these organizations, the Republicans cannot weaponize this against the left because the media and the people at the heads of these institutions will not allow that to happen. Because you could have a second Trump presidency, you could have veto-proof Republican majorities in the House and Senate, and you can order the FBI to be weaponized. I mean, even let's not even say weaponize. Let's just say have the FBI do its fucking job and take on the corruption and the evil shit that the Democratic Party has been up to over these last few years. Investigate some of these people, come down on them like a hammer, and you will see a repeat of when Jim Comey got in front of Congress, gave a 45-minute dissertation of all of the federal level crimes that Hillary Clinton committed, and then wiped his hands and said, yeah, but no reasonable prosecutor would ever bring a case against her. And that was that.
Yeah, because they don't want to die.
That was that. That was all that came of that. He stood up there for 45 minutes and let Congress know everything that this woman did wrong. Verifiable. On paper, on record, all of the things that she did to break the law, knowingly. They say ignorance is no excuse. Well, she knowingly committed the crimes that he laid out in that 45-minute speech, and then he just said, no, nobody would bring a case against you. Talk about a tiered justice system. What a bunch of crap.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what you would see again if the Republicans tried to do to the Democrats what the Democrats have been doing to the Republicans and, frankly, to us for the past 6 years.
Us
at
personally.
least.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if the DHS took a look at our Instagram page and told Facebook to nuke it. Would you be surprised? No. Like, they flagged pages for termination, and they flagged ours.
If it wasn't the DHS that told Instagram to do it, it was one of their
Or fact checkers.
one of their fact checkers in the media. And who knows what type of email chains those people are on. They're all connected. It's this disgusting, incestuous relationship that they've got.
Yeah, the only thing to do with these organizations is just abolish them. Like, don't try to reform the FBI or the DHS. No, just get rid of them. The DHS was only created in 2002. We can live without it.
Right.
We don't need the DHS. Like, the only reason, here's the thing: the DHS's job was to protect us from global terrorism. That was its mission. They have no mission. It's gone. There is no global war on terror anymore. Afghanistan was like the last hurrah for the DHS. So they needed a new mission. They needed something to justify their existence. And this is what all government agencies do. They're created for a specific purpose, but that specific purpose isn't perpetual. So now they got to find a new reason to justify themselves. They all have cushy jobs with nice salaries that they want to protect. They don't want to go get a real job. That's difficult.
Right.
It's easy to do government work. So what do? Well, there's no Muslims for us to spy on anymore. We don't have anyone else to bomb. There's no global terroristic threats going on. That's old news. That's last decade's news. So what are we going to do now? Oh, I know. How about we get cushy with the guys at Facebook and then tell them that, hey, if you see a guy criticizing us for the Afghan withdrawal, go ahead and ban him.
Right. Yeah. The DHS is doing exactly what NATO's been doing since 1989. Just hanging around with no real purpose left anymore. You know, and you bring up that the DHS was founded to fight, global terrorism and whatever. I don't know if I've told the story to you guys or if I've told it on the show or not, but when I was here, 9/11 was when I was a sophomore in high school, I think. And shortly afterwards, when DHS was founded, we were, I think I was a senior that year, and we were going around to various local colleges, just touring the campus and listening to speakers and doing stuff like that. My class was. And a representative from DHS was giving a speech about what his department does, why they exist and what it is that they've been up to in the year or two that they had been in existence. He was up there giving this speech, and we were all listening. And he was going over on how 9/11 happened because of a failure within the intelligence communities, the FBI, the CIA, the DIA, all of the alphabet agencies. That they were underfunded, understaffed, and competing with each other to be top dog in order to secure resources and funding. If they had a big story or something that might be more in the purview of one of the other agencies, they would rather sit on it, investigate it a little bit further, and then be the ones to come out with the dossier or whatever, the report on whatever the case was. So it'd be like, oh, look, we're so important, give us more funding. That was what the agencies, we were competing with each other. And so he laid all of this out for us, and he's like, and so that's why the DHS was spun up, so that we wouldn't have this problem anymore with the competing agencies competing for funding and prestige. So we got done, and he got to asking the question, or you got to a question segment. And so I raised my hand and I said, yeah, earlier on in the speech, you said that the 9/11 happened because the other agencies were understaffed, underfunded, and didn't have the equipment and resources that they need, correct? And he says, yes. And I says, so what sense does it make to make another agency that will be understaffed, underfunded, and not have the requisite equipment that it needs to perform its job. His face went white as a sheet. It's like, oh shit, he knows. And he goes, we'll come back to that question later. And then he never got back to my question later. And my social studies teachers pulled me to the side, and he's like, I appreciate what you're doing, but holy shit, did you just talk smack to a DHS agent?
Like, yes, and I do it again.
And that's when I knew I was
Just
a
wait
libertarian.
20 years. I'm going to have a podcast where I do it every week.
Well, in the conspiracy theories, you abolish the DHS, we'll have some false flag, and they'll be like, see, we needed it.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing about it. If any president legitimately tried to abolish these agencies, what would happen to them? Do we really think the DHS and FBI would go quietly into that good night? Just be like, oh, well, all right, I guess we have no jobs now.
Shows up, boys.
Yep.
Like, damn it. We tried our best. Guess that's it for us.
Yeah. So long, and thanks for all the fish. Yeah, I think Glenn Danzig wrote a song about this. Somebody who tried something similar back in the day.
Yeah.
Took you a second, didn't it?
Yeah, he did. So that might be what happens to that president, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Unfortunately.
they'll and those agencies will just get more funding afterwards because political violence. We got to crack down even harder.
Oh,
This
no.
happened because people were sharing memes on Twitter.
Yep. That's
Memes
exactly
are now
what happened.
illegal.
Someone assassinated the president right after he abolished DHS. These two things are connected, but not for the reason you think.
Yeah. Somebody commented over here. Oh, yes, the CIA. We haven't been criticized by a president since JFK.
Booyah. There you go. You got it.
I don't think Trump was all that complimentary of the intelligence community, shall we say. But then again,
he stopped short of telling them directly that he was going to fragment them into 1,000 pieces and scatter them to the wind, which is, I think, where JFK stepped over the line in their eyes.
But then again, he did have a report come out saying he got pissed on a hotel room couch that the CIA backed up. So
well, that's just the thing. Every 5 minutes there was some stupid leak or some idiotic lie that came out that he had to spend a couple years knocking down. And the whole Russiagate shit was just absolute utter nonsense. And yeah, the FBI was all about that. That was all the FBI. So
I mean, that's the worst part is just the constant being lied to. You start to not even know what's real anymore. It's almost like you're a schizophrenic at some point because you just don't have any idea what's true from all this crap anymore.
See, this is the real reason libertarians never win is because the more aware of this shit that you get, the crazier you get, and then you just drop off the map because you just can't take it anymore.
Go live in Uncle Ted's cabin out in the woods.
All right, what else? What else
Well,
do we
it
have
kind
for
of
the?
dovetails into it. Did you want to talk about any election stuff, Hobbs?
Yeah, so just like real quick. So
Speaking
we have
of government
Joe Biden's-
intervention.
Yeah, no shit. So we had Joe Biden's speech at Union Station. They did a really good job of clearing out the homeless people out of Union Station. So Biden could give a nice, pretty speech up there.
Yeah,
but
what
he's-
about those optics though? That you want to give a speech at a train station, but you have to clear out all the homeless people first.
Yeah, Grand Central Station is a beautiful building. It was built by Teddy Roosevelt over 100 years ago, and now it's a homeless camp, basically, in our nation's capital. So, so he gave his speech where he lamented about the so-called election deniers. I think the number is 207 Republican candidates in this year's midterm election are quote-unquote election deniers, and something like 170 of them are predicted to win.
Oh, so scary.
Yeah, exactly. And just saying that will probably get us nuked off of YouTube. Oh, did you guys see Caleb Salvatore got nuked off of YouTube for
No.
He did.
for election election denial.
But I would never suggest that any
No.
election ever
No.
was stolen, unless, of course, the Republicans win this upcoming election. Then it's totally fake and illegitimate, and there's no truth to any of it.
Right. Yeah. So,
And if they win, you can never trust any election ever again. They're all going to be stolen. And Stacey
Correct.
Abrams is the legitimate governor of Georgia. That was stolen from her as well.
Yes.
Oh, and Hillary Clinton, she of course is the rightful president of the United States. She should still be serving her second term right now, except that Donald Trump, of course, stole the election from her. But of course, that's not the first stolen election, because George W. Bush stole it from Al Gore back in 2000. But I would never suggest that any election has ever been stolen.
Yes, and that was one of the big parts of Biden's speech, was talking about how secure the election was and how election deniers, basically should be thrown in a gulag or something, like
Which
those evil
I
MAGA
agree with,
Republicans.
YouTube.
Yes, I totally agree with that, YouTube.
Speaking
want to
of,
see election.
did you see the story out of Milwaukee about the military ballots?
No.
So the Milwaukee County election clerk wanted to show a loophole in the system. So she had a bunch of military ballots sent to a Republican state rep's house and made up names, like Simpsons type names, like Hugh Jass, Philip McCracken.
Yeah.
And so these were valid ballots, because you have no ID. Wisconsin has a state law. There's no ID check against military members that say they're overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So this Republican state senator, a whole 20 some ballots showed up at his house with fake names that were valid. He could have voted and taken them down, and they would have been good to go. So at that point, the attorney general of the state of Wisconsin has her arrested for election fraud.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Did he fill them out and vote?
No, he had the chick that sent him to this state rep's house to show how big this loophole was. And the Democrat attorney general of the state had her arrested and fired.
Ha, hilarious.
So it makes you wonder how much other crap. I mean, how many other loopholes there are.
Yeah. So, just real quick on it. Luke White brings up Bolsonaro's loss down in Brazil. I guess that we're sending Anthony Blinken down there to tell Bolsonaro to accept his loss next week. So I'm sure that'll go over like a lead balloon. But anyways, getting back to Biden's speech, he was talking about how secure the elections were, and how MAGA Republicans are denying the elections, and how that can't be allowed. Can't be just willy-nilly saying that elections are rigged or stolen or fraudulent or whatever. Meanwhile, last week, Hillary Clinton and a couple of other prominent Democrats were sounding the alarm bells on how the Republicans are definitely going to steal this election, you guys. It's not the Democrat shit policies that are driving people away from the party in droves. It's the Republicans are definitely going to steal this election. And so you have these two
fascist Nazis are going to steal it from us. The ones that aren't in power.
Racist, fascist Nazis.
The misogynistic, racist, fascist Nazis.
Istophobic phobophobes. So you have these two trendsetters and of the Democratic Party are giving off a conflicting message. Joe Biden, being the de facto head of the Democratic Party, now being the Democratic president, carries a little bit more weight in his statements. And he is saying, in an election year in which his party is projected to take a thorough shellacking, that elections are secure and good to go. So my conspiracy hamster starts running on his wheel. And what I think is going to happen is they're going to cheat. They are going to make it just obvious enough that it makes normal people uncomfortable. But it's not going to be so obvious that you have an airtight case to bring before the Supreme Court. And I think that that's probably what's going to happen. We're going to see Lee Zeldin in New York, the New York governor's race. He is slightly ahead right now. I think he's going to lose to Kathy Hochul, who is awful. He's going to lose by a decent margin because it's New York, and that's within the realm of probability. Down in Pennsylvania, you're going to see Doug Mastriano lose by a narrow margin. You're going to see John Fetterman win by a narrow margin, even though the guy can't string a sentence together. That is a little less obvious, but they're polling close enough right now that it's also within the realm of possibility. And I think that you would not see a lot of terrible fallout from that. I mean, there'll be questions, there'll be screaming, there might be some protests, but you're not going to see things escalate to like a Black Lives Matter Antifa level of things. Where things are going to get really interesting, though, is if they pull some shenanigans in Arizona. Right now, you have a woman by the name of Kari Lake, who is, I like her. I think she's awesome. She talks shit to the media like nobody's business.
Oh yeah, she's amazing.
Yes.
She's like a competent Trump.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, she's like an eloquent and competent Trump. But she talks shit to the media. She's up by 11 points right now. Her opponent, Katie Hobbs, no relation to me at all.
Lies.
She flees from interviews. Like if a newsman sees her on the street and asks her for a couple of questions, she will turn tail and run. She will not debate. She just goes on to sympathetic media and it's like, oh yeah, I don't need to debate. I don't need to entertain her. She's a crazy person. We'll just let the people decide, and they're going to pick me because I'm so great. Kari Lake is up by 11 points right now. And if they pull some shenanigans and she loses this upcoming election, that's when I think that all hell is going to break loose. So I think Kari Lake is going to secure Arizona gubernatorial. They're going to let that one slide. Doug Mastriano is going to lose the Senate in Pennsylvania. Dr. Oz is going to lose the Senate in Pennsylvania. And Lee Zeldin is going to lose the governor in New York. You guys got any other races on your radar?
There's Herschel Walker down in Georgia.
That's another one.
Show of all shit shows. And is there anyone in Georgia that isn't Herschel Walker's son?
Maybe. Yeah, I honestly I haven't paid any attention to that race because it just seems like such a circus that I can't. Like I'm having trouble in my brain, the tangled mess that my brain is. I'm having trouble squaring that mess with reality.
No, it's just funny because at the same time you want to go like, okay, there's all these crazy allegations coming out a week before the election about this guy. That all seems very suspicious. But then again, the guy's Herschel Walker, and I totally believe all of it. It's like, yeah, I can see that. I can see this guy doing that. It's just so nutty that, I mean, Alabama elected a former football coach as a senator. Why not Georgia electing a former football star?
Oh, we've got no room to talk here in Nebraska.
No, we don't, because we elected a football coach as our senator too. But our football coach won 3 championships. Did Tommy Tuberville ever win anything?
Who knows?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Anyway, yeah, that's. I don't know. It just seems like it's so leaning against Democrats right now. I mean, I'm seeing predictions of Democrats losing 35 to 40 seats in the House.
Looting. Was that a phrase?
That's what I meant to say. But it's like if they maintain the majority in the there's no possible way that they can maintain the majority in the House without cheating. That's not possible. It would be fairly obvious that they cheated. Like, oh, look, guys, I know we were projected to lose 35 to 40 seats, But I guess we were just so much better than we thought we were.
Yeah, they got to come up with a new way. I mean, they're running out of ways to do it at this point.
And they can't just keep screaming January 6th. My God, guys. My God, would you shut the fuck up about January 6th? Nobody gives a shit about January 6th. Why don't
Get
you
some
talk about
different
something-
material.
Why don't you talk about something people care about? Like, I can't get on YouTube right now without seeing some goddamn abortion commercial about how John Bacon is evil. He pushed the Supreme Court into overturning Roe v. Wade. I'm like, who the fuck do you? Don Bacon did that? You're blaming Don Bacon for overturning Roe v. Wade? Really?
For those who don't know,
serious?
Don Bacon's one of our Nebraska politicians.
Yeah,
He's
and every time I get on YouTube, it's, well, John Bacon is the reason Roe v. Wade got abolished. First of all, based. I would love it if that was true. I'd vote for the guy any day of the week if that was actually true. But number two, the fuck are you talking about? Don Bacon had nothing to do with that. So he pushed the Supreme Court. He didn't push shit. Nobody listens to Don Bacon.
Yeah, I'm sure the justices were, he was just camping outside the court, bum rush the judge. You got it. I doubt that happened.
But that's the thing. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Why don't they talk about something that people actually care about? Like Sleepy Joe Biden gets kicks out all the homeless people of Union Station, sets up his podium, and then proceeds to ramble for 20 minutes. It's like, this guy obviously is off his meds. They can put some adrenaline in his veins to get him wide awake sometimes. Sometimes Joe Biden is lively. When he was having that fascist speech in Philadelphia in front of those blood red lights, he was pretty lively then. But then you see this speech that he just gave. Where was
Right.
that? He's falling asleep standing up. And he's droning on and on about democracy's on the ballot. We all need to unite and stand together to fight the Nazi fascist Republican election.
I thought he said they were
deniers.
forces of darkness. Isn't that how he referred to the GOP?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like he's in the Lord of the Rings. He thinks he's Gandalf. I mean, he's probably old enough to be Gandalf. You ever seen them in the same room together? I haven't.
So I don't know. Did Gandalf ever sniff one of the halflings? It seems like something he'd do. So I just gotta say, if democracy is on the ballot, just check me down for no.
Yeah, right.
That's where my vote is going.
We're gonna lose our democracy. Oh, thank God.
Like, oh no, democracy is ended. Like it's amazing to me because like democracy is supposed to be the means to an end, right? It's supposed to be the way you achieve liberty. It's not supposed to be the goal in and of itself. That's stupid. I don't like this idea. Oh man, democracy is like the greatest good that's ever existed. Like, no, fuck that. It's still government. And I still don't want to tell you what to do.
I can't think of any situation in history where somebody backslid to democracy from a republic. And as far as even a true democratic government, wasn't Athens about the only one that did that? And that was a total shit show.
The Spartans had the right idea. If
Well,
your
some
baby
of the-
coughs, throw it off a cliff. Wait, we got to talk about this vaccine. No, not vaccine. The COVID amnesty thing before we run out of time.
Oh, yeah.
Got all the time in the world, Haas. We're not on a schedule.
Let's do it.
But yeah. So that's
Public relations campaign to say they're sorry, pretty much.
No,
That's it. They didn't say that.
That's the thing. They're not apologizing. See, what they're asking for is amnesty.
Oh, is that where they
Not for-
shifted to now? Last arc I saw, they were like, "We're sorry,"
No.
Oh, okay.
No, amnesty is not forgiveness. Forgiveness is acknowledging that you did something wrong and feeling regret over it. These assholes
changing.
and changing. Yes. See, first step towards being forgiven for something wrong that you do is to stop doing that thing. They're still when I loaded up the the BeLive camera, one of the first things that popped up in my feed as it was loading up was schedule your COVID shot or booster. And it was a kid that had to be like 4 or 5 years old in the advertisement. It was like, no, they're still pushing it, and they want us to just kind of, let's why are we keeping score of who was right and wrong? You know, it's like there's no sense in that. I mean, it was just like we're 0-5, but you know what? Let's call it a draw. It's a
Yeah,
wash.
I know we're down 10 runs in the 9th inning, but you know, why do we need to keep score? We don't need to keep score. Like this, that's the
Everybody gets a
thing. That's the thing
participation
about
trophy.
it. This lady writes this article for The Atlantic, and she's asking for everybody just to say, let bygones be bygones. And she's telling this story about during the beginning of the pandemic, she would go on walks in the woods with her family, wearing masks that she made, and that they would have hand signals to let the rest of the family know when somebody else was walking up on the trail. Like, I don't even know why you would need hand signals. Like, if you can see them, you can hear them. Just speak.
Well,
But anyway,
they were responsibly social distanced on the trail. Even though they lived together under the same roof, the family was responsibly social distanced.
Well, that just reminds me of those families that would lock their children in their rooms.
Well, that's
Do you
just
remember
so,
that in Canada? They would like take one of their children. It's like, oh, there was a COVID case in their school, so I'm gonna lock my kid in his room for 2 weeks, and he's crying on the baby monitor, saying that he wants to play with his siblings, but we just can't let him out. He's got to stay in there for 2 weeks.
well, that just shows me that some leftists have apocalypse fantasies, like some people on the right do. But instead of stocking up on beans and ammo, they want to wear masks and pretend they're hiding from diseases.
And they'll call you the crazy one. Like they think the world is going to end every 5 minutes from COVID, from climate change, from this, from that. And then you'd be like, oh, well, maybe you should prep for that. Oh, you crazy conspiracy theorist. Why would I prep for the apocalypse that I am sure is coming? Stupid. Or get your tinfoil hat off. But she tells this story about how her 4-year-old would scream at other children on this trail that they need to keep their social distancing. Like you made your children hypochondriacs. You scared the living bejesus out of them. And the thing about it is, her whole case is that, well, we didn't know, so you can't hold it against us. Like, bitch, yes, I can. I absolutely can hold this against you, because if you didn't know, why did you say that you did? Why did you call us science deniers for years? Why did you say we were denying facts for years? Why did you say we were killing grandma? Why did you try to get us fired? Why did you try to get us kicked out of restaurants? Why did you try to force the vax into our bodies? Why did you do any of that if you didn't fucking know? I'll tell you why. Because you're arrogant, moralistic pricks. That's why you did all that. Because doing this gave you an orgasm. Doing this shit made you feel like $1,000,000, and you just couldn't wait to lord your moral superiority over all of us who knew it was bullshit. We knew. We all knew, because we were actually following the facts. We were actually following the science. We knew that this came from a Wuhan lab. We knew that closing the schools for 2 years was a bad idea. We knew that outdoor spreading wasn't a thing, and we knew that your cloth masks didn't work. We were fucking right. So give us our goddamn apology.
Nathan, please don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel.
I'm so goddamn pissed about this shit, because after all of this time, all the shit that we took, we're just expected to just let it go. Just let it go. As if nothing happened. As if you didn't try to get me fired from my job and deprive my family of a livelihood. Fuck you.
There it is. I missed you, buddy.
Yeah.
You gotta clip that and put it on whatever. It makes me unbelievably angry. This shit.
I just can't wait till this next generation growing up wonders why they're all retarded from the COVID stuff, and they start taking it out on all the boomers.
No, dude, the next generation is gonna hate millennials. Like you,
Oh,
the way
millennials and
millennials
boomers, yeah.
feel about boomers, the next generation, my kids' generation, they're gonna fucking hate their parents. Oh my god,
Oh,
the
yeah.
ones that still have their original genitals are gonna fucking hate their parents.
Yeah. So I've been trying to formulate how I feel about this, and there's the people that died. It's very sad. People that were long-term injured, also very sad. But the people who are pushing the masks, people who are pushing the shots, all the social distancing crap, closing the schools, their excuses. It's like, well, I'm not a microbiologist. I'm not a virologist. I'm not an immunologist. I'm not a scientist. I'm just following what I was told. And in spite of the millions of people worldwide that have died of this thing or been injured from this thing, and the untold numbers that will be killed or injured by adverse effects of the shot that we have yet to see what
we
that
don't
will
believe
be,
that happened.
which we don't believe will happen ever, YouTube, which I don't believe. But with all of that being said, with all those millions of people worldwide, I think that the biggest casualty of all of this is going to be the loss of faith in authoritative institutions. You're supposed to be able to trust your doctor. Your doctor is supposed to be able to trust institutions like the CDC and the NIH. That trust is now gone. Nobody will ever trust these people ever again. And God forbid if something that's actually deadly on a mass scale comes around and they try to warn us about it and warn us to take preventative measures, you're going to be met with some long-term skepticism, because we were going to remember what happened the last time and be like, is it really that bad, or are you just full of shit again because you feel a power grab coming on? And unfortunately, I think that long-term, this is going to get a lot of people killed. And I have my own theories as to why they did this the way that they did it. It's going to be another long-winded speech if you guys are interested in hearing that, but I'm sure you've heard me talk enough. So why don't one of you guys weigh in?
I talked
Well,
more than you did.
I was gonna just talk about this story that just popped in my. We were talking about lockdowns. China's still in lockdowns. This just popped up 20 minutes ago. A 3-year-old boy. They're in lockdown at this time. There was a gas leak in his parents' house. He ended up going into cardiac arrest. His father tried to perform CPR and they called an ambulance. The ambulance wouldn't come unless they could prove they were COVID negative. So at this point, the father takes his child outside, starts walking to the hospital, and a kind-hearted taxi driver picks him up and takes him the rest of the way, but he died. So now this happened in Hong Kong. They're starting to get some riots forming over this child that died because of lockdowns.
I was listening to this analyst on YouTube talk about China's problem, because if you believe China, they didn't have a big COVID problem when the rest of the world did. No one knows if that's actually true or not, but that's what they say. So now if that's true, their present problem is that they do not have a population with a natural immunity. See, the reason why COVID deaths, well, the reason why we're not all still living in this COVID panic mode that we were, is because everybody got, the Omicron variant. Everyone got it. I got it. You got it. Everybody got it. Everyone got it. And then realized that the vaccine doesn't stop you from, transmitting the virus and catching it. But if China is to be believed, then nobody got COVID there. And now they're getting COVID. Now, I don't know whether or not that's true or not, but they seem to think it's true. So now they don't have a population that has natural immunity to it. So what they're afraid of is that if they just let everything stay open, that they're going to get a huge wave of COVID over their country. So this is how it was explained, and I don't know if it's true or not, but that makes more sense than anything else to me. Because otherwise, why the fuck are they doing lockdowns in 2022? That is last year's panic. Why are you still doing that shit? But if they think that it's just gonna kill millions of people in their country, and that might bring about the downfall of the CCP, then okay, maybe that makes a little bit of sense, I guess. But on the other hand, it kills mostly old people, and China is facing a demographic collapse. So maybe they should want some old people to not be there anymore. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they use their lockdown system. We talked about this a couple shows ago. There was some people protesting not being able to get their money withdrawn from a bank.
Mhm.
And just so happened, everybody in that crowd, their phone started dinging that they were testing COVID positive.
What a coincidence. What are the odds? No, the CCP would never do something like that.
Yeah.
Well, they would have. They had something similar going on. Well, I mean, not similar, I guess, but they were trying to have everyone in New York City.
Yeah, we talked about
on their phone.
It had a happy name too, something like the Liberty Pass or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
New York Freedom Pass.
The New York Freedom Pass.
Doesn't it just make you want to punch yourself in this face every time you pass a place that does taxes and they call themselves Liberty Tax? Like, I hate you. Don't do that. Call it slavery tax.
Yeah. Oh man, it's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the COVID amnesty that they want. And to be completely fair, the lady who wrote this article wasn't the worst COVIDian you've ever seen. Like, she was advocating for opening schools in 2021, which I mean isn't the worst. I mean, she had a few things that she got right, but just the very idea that we should just kind of move on from this all. Like, look, if someone was a prick and they make a heartfelt apology about being a prick, I'm more than happy to accept that.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, okay, you realize you were a prick. You're sorry. You realize that you made a mistake and you're apologizing for it. I'm not going to hold that over your head for the rest of your life. I'm more than happy to accept an apology. But it has to be an apology. You have to be like, look, Token, no, I was a prick to you. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. You were right. I got it wrong. But that's just the thing. These COVIDians, they're all leftists, right? And leftists pride themselves on being superior to everybody else. I'm smarter. I'm more tolerant. I like to have an open mind. I follow the science. I'm just better than you.
But more so than that, their excuse is that they mean well.
Right.
Oh, we were all in the dark, and I was just doing what I thought was for
everything
the
left is
greater
due.
good.
Yep, there it is, the greater good.
But that's just the thing. For someone like that to admit that they got it so wrong for so long about an issue this big, can they even do it? Is it even possible? Because this was the biggest thing to happen in probably ever in our lifetimes, for sure. I mean, this whole COVID thing was definitely bigger than 9/11, bigger than the global war on terror. This was the biggest expansion of authoritarian government worldwide we've ever seen. And they were wrong.
Right. And they weren't just wrong. They were 180 degrees from correct for 2 solid years. That has got to have some kind of a medal, some type of a trophy for that, because that is an impressive degree of fuckery.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Republicans and their global war on terror in the early 2000s. It was the kind
Yeah.
of the same thing. Remember the Dixie Chicks got canceled? There's like the original cancellation way back in the day because they opposed the war in Iraq.
Yep.
And they were so sure for so long that that was the right thing to do, even when it was clearly not. And nowadays, they all just kind of admit, yeah, we were wrong about that. Oh, what were we thinking? Oh, that was just, ooh, please don't remind me of my past.
Yeah, sorry we
I am
destroyed your
hoping
career,
that this
girls.
I'm hoping that this COVID regime kind of turns into that.
Yeah, because I know Colin Powell apologized for it.
Yep.
Yeah, but Dick Cheney never got punished for
Well,
it.
Dick Cheney probably would never apologize.
Yeah.
Dick Cheney
Freaking
still
screw that
believes
guy.
Dick Cheney is in the same boat as what's that fucking weirdo with the bad mustache? Bolton, John Bolton.
Oh, Bolton.
Yeah, Dick Cheney and John Bolton still think the war in Iraq was absolutely unequivocally the right course of action
Well, yeah, there's.
because
Yeah,
they're
I don't
like
think
the
there's a
only
single
two
war those
risky
two
people.
wouldn't think is the right course of action. Especially Bolton.
because they're crazy people.
Yeah, if COVID could have rid of his of Dick Cheney, but I will never forgive it for that.
Or Bolton. Either of those would have been an absolute win.
Yeah. So we got one more topic that we can go over before we call her a night, boys. You guys want to talk about Underpants Hammer Fight Club?
Let's do it.
There's
It's
so
the
many
greatest topic of
conspiracy
all
theories on
time.
it. Who knows?
Let's just pick the best one. I don't even care what the real truth is. Just the very fact that this story came out and everybody's immediate reaction was to go, you know what? Gay shit. This is probably gay. I have no evidence to support that and no reason to believe it, but it's probably Paul Pelosi's gay. He hired a prostitute. They got into a sexy hammer fight. It went a little too far.
Well, I
Yeah.
like how every time it's mentioned on like Fox News or some other right-leaning media, they mention he's an illegal immigrant.
Right.
Yeah, from Canada.
Yeah.
He's from Canada.
That guy checked every box.
No, but
And the media was still trying to spin it that this was right-wing political violence, even though this guy checked every single box. An illegal immigrant, makes hemp jewelry, lives in a broken down school bus in Berkeley, nudist activist, like in a polyamor
BLM flag,
polyamorous
LGBT
relationship.
flag.
I mean, this guy is just like, as far as like the lefty tags, he's like, these are like Pokemon. I gotta catch them all.
I kind of wonder if the guy wandered into the wrong Discord server and a glowy got a hold of him. He like meant to join a My Little Pony server and end up in the wrong one and started talking to glowies. The next thing you know, he's breaking into Pelosi's house in his underwear with a hammer.
Well, one theory.
That's kind of
No, go ahead.
that's kind of the funny thing though, this whole illegal immigrant situation is because what you hear from leftists all the time that, oh, you just oppose illegal immigration because it's not white people. Here's this white person coming down from Canada. And the right-wing media can't stop talking about it. It's like, I guess it's not just that it's, you know, Mexicans. They don't like the Canadians coming down either.
We got to stop them snow Mexicans at the border. No, but so one theory that I heard that it probably isn't true. Nathan's probably right. This is probably some gay prostitute gone wrong shit. But one funny theory that I heard that I actually kind of like is that this guy, he's well known in the area, or fairly well known, as a drug addict and like a clinical schizophrenic, just weirdo. Like he's a heavy psychedelic drug abuser. And so one theory that I heard was that they got him when he was high, scooped him up, pumped some more drugs into him, and then just dropped him off at Paul Pelosi's house, and it was a frame job. And like, we're just going to scoop this guy up. We're going to drop him off at Paul Pelosi's house. We're going to give him a hammer, stand him there in his underpants. And then as he's sitting there, like in a drugged out haze with this hammer in his hands, he like kind of has a moment of lucidity. Like, holy shit, where am I? What am I doing? Why is this man holding onto my arm? Get off of me! And hits him in the head with a hammer.
What was
This
it? What was
supposed
with
to be
the story
October
saying it was a
surprise.
hammer fight? Like the guy some people were saying the guy brought 2 hammers and gave one to Paul Pelosi and they had a duel. There's so many.
I don't think that was true. I think it was just the one hammer, and they were fighting over it.
They're having a sexy hammer fight in their underwear.
Sexy underwear hammer fight.
I mean, I can kind of. I mean, people sleep in their underwear, right? That's not a weird
Yeah.
thing. So it's like, oh, Paul Pelosi was in his underwear. Why was he like? It's like 2 a.m.
Yeah,
It's
he's
like
an 86-year-old man in his own house at
like
2
a man.
o'clock in the
Like,
morning.
come on, is a man not allowed to be in his underwear in his own home at 2 a.m.? No,
Yeah,
what's really weird about this is we're like, oh, well, I mean, security wasn't there because it follows Nancy around, not Paul. I'm like, motherfucker, are you serious? You don't have any security in your own home? Like, you really expect me to believe?
Well, they have.
that there's-
What did it say? There's cameras, but since Nancy was gone, they weren't watching them or something.
Yeah, you don't have the fucking Ring doorbell there, like nothing. You don't have ADT. You know, does an ADT detect when a window is broken in your home? These guys are like millionaires. Nancy Pelosi is the greatest financial expert of all time. She's like the most amazing investor that has ever lived. She has millions and millions of dollars and is third in line to the presidency. You don't have any security. It's just so utterly bizarre. You don't have a dog. You don't have a big fat guy sleeping on your couch. No
No
alarms,
fence.
nothing. Yeah, Paul Pelosi needs to fight off the drug addict with the hammer. That's really what you're counting on.
Oh man, I hope that this story gets even wilder before the end. I mean, it's pretty cray right now, but
Like FBI, these are the leaks we want. We want the video from inside that house.
it's pretty crazy
Make it
right now. But
happen.
I see room for growth. I see room for growth here.
It's the story we're gonna follow.
Yes.
Like, I mean, somebody has the video, right? They got cameras inside the house. The cops were wearing body cams. I want to see it. I want to see what happened, right? I want to see if the cops burst in and Paul Pelosi is like in some BDSM position, like, stop him, he's got a hammer.
I think you can find the 911 call out there. I think that was released.
I don't know about the
Fucking
911 call, but I do know that there was communication between one of the responding officers and the dispatcher, where the officer said that Paul Pelosi said, "There's a stranger in my house. His name is David. He's a friend." And the officer's
He's
like,
got a hammer.
yeah, the officer's like, I think he's very confused.
Well, then somebody said, well,
Yeah,
he's
just-
using coded language. It's like the guy didn't have a gun to his head standing at the door. I mean, I don't know. Nothing about the story makes sense. It'll go away after the election. And next week's going to be all about election stuff. So
Yeah, I gotta say, Nancy is probably after what Paul has done over the past few months, she's got to be furious with the man. Like, damn it, Paul! I just got you out of a DUI, and you bring home a nudist prostitute. What the fuck? Like, I got these giant fake breasts just for you, and you're still not happy.
Worst October surprise ever.
picked him up at the bar. Hey, come home and hammer me, big boy, and took it the wrong way. Anyway,
That's the other thing. This dude's like 90 years old and he got brained in the skull with the hammer and he's just fine. It's like this guy is fucking Captain America or something. He can just take it.
it's all that adrenochrome.
There you go.
He's got all that. He's been sucking the blood out of children lately and it just
Yeah.
regenerates quickly.
So,
Your Facebook stream has been stopped for violation of the community's.
yeah, it did happen this time
Ah.
somehow. I don't know what that's about. I didn't stream it to the main page, so that's where they watch it.
Oh.
But we'll tune in next week. We're gonna have the post-election going on at that point, so that should
Should
be
we-
interesting.
Should we have an election watch party?
What day is the election?
The 8th?
Is it on a weekend?
It's on a Tuesday.
Why is it always a Tuesday? Why do they do that? I want to stay up till 2 a.m. watching.
Well, we'll see. We'll
They
see how
always
it
do
goes.
Yeah.
We'll post up
No,
if we do, but I would shoot for Thursday.
All right.
So that's it for this week in Clown World. You got the horn ready, Hobbs, for. So tune in next week after the election and stay honky.